Hello children, this is the second part of the video on the chapter Major Tourist Centers of Karnataka, which is for class 9 subject social chapter 9. By this time you should have already seen the part 1 of the video on this chapter. If not, you would want to go and look at that first. This video is the second part of the Major Tourist Centers of Karnataka. The topics that are covered in this particular video are the wildlife sanctuaries, national parks, beaches and islands, historical places, places of pilgrimage, and finally the forts of Karnataka. So are we ready, children, to see all these beautiful places? Let's first talk about the wildlife sanctuaries. So why do we have a wildlife sanctuary? So Karnataka has a lot of forests and a lot of wildlife lives in those forests. In order to protect the forests and the wildlife, the government has set up what are called the wildlife sanctuaries. So these are restricted areas where the normal public is not normally allowed to go, and the nature and the wildlife is allowed to blossom, naturally. So what are the different types that we have for these? So we have the wildlife sanctuaries that we already talked of. We have bird sanctuaries, which are sanctuaries set up specifically for birds. We have the national parks. We have tiger projects specifically for tigers. And we also have the biosphere reserve areas. To summarize, we have 5 types here. So we have the wildlife sanctuaries, the bird sanctuaries, national parks, tiger projects, and the biosphere reserve area. Let's understand a bit more on the wildlife sanctuaries. So for the conservation of wildlife in their natural habitat means their natural living place. So for the conservation of wildlife in their natural habitat, 18 wildlife sanctuaries have been set up in Karnataka. Amongst those, the popular ones for the animals are the ones in Muthodi, Bandipur, Nagarhole, Dandeli, and Bhadra. And the ones set up for the birds are the ones in Ranganathitu, Kokare Bellur, Mandagadde, Guddavi. So these are some of the places where the bird sanctuaries are set up. We also talked of national parks. Karnataka has 5 national parks. So we have the Rajiv Gandhi National Park in Nagarhole. We have the Bandipur National Park, the Bannerghatta National Park, Kudremukh, and the Anshi National Park. So the total 5 national parks in Karnataka. Karnataka being along the shore, there are a lot of beaches that attract a lot of tourists as well. So some of the popular beaches are the Om Beach of Gokarna, we have the Ulal Beach, we have the Murdeshwara Beach, the Maravante Beach, and the Malpe Beach. Did you know that Karnataka has few islands as well? An island is a place that's completely surrounded by water. So Karnataka has few islands, and one of the popular ones is the Saint Mary Island near Udupi, which is famous for the pillar type rock formations. So in the picture that you see there, you can see that the rocks seem like pillars jetting from the bottom of the ocean. And that is why this particular island is known for the pillar type rock formation. The other islands that are popular are the Mundeshwar's Netrani Island, and we also have the Devgad and Kurmagad Islands near Karwar. These are also popular islands. Let's look at the historical places next. So Karnataka had a lot of earlier rulers. So they were the Kadambas, the Hosalas, the Chalukyas, and the kings of Vijayanagara. And all of these rulers left behind many beautiful sculptural wonders. Now we already saw a couple of them in the part 1 video. So Hampi was listed as one of those, and we had the Pattadakal as well. Both of those were the World Heritage Sites. But apart from these two, we also have a lot of places which have historical places. So we have the Belur and Halibad, the Somnathpur, the Badami Caves, Aihole, the Gol Gumbas of Vijayanagara or Bijapur, Lakundi, Banavasi, Basaralu, Beligave, and Mysore and Srirangapatnam. Srirangapatnam is probably one of the popular ones you might have heard. So that's the one where Tipu Sultan was, and that's famous because of the ruler Tipu Sultan. Let's look at some of the pictures of the historical places. So this one you probably already have seen in the part 1 video. So this is Hampi, again the chariot, and if you recollect, this was on the 50 rupee note as well. This is the Halibad structure. So Belur, Halibad are close to each other, and again there are a lot of historical monuments there. This is the Badami Caves. So if you see here, this is actually carved into a mountain. So they are actually caves, and this particular historical place has been built that way. And finally, we have the Gol Gumbas of Vijaypura or Bijapur. And again, this is the Mughal architecture, and you can see it somewhat resembles the Taj Mahal as well. Karnataka has a lot of pilgrimage centers as well. By a pilgrimage center, we mean a place that is known for the religious temples or churches or mosque, or so it's a religious center. So here are some of the places of pilgrimage in Karnataka. I'll pause for a few seconds here for you to go over this list. So while you're doing that, I'll just call out some of the popular ones. So the Dharmasthala is one of the popular ones. We have the Sringeri, which is known by the Sringeri Mats. We have the Shravan Belagola. We also have the Ibrahim Rosa of Bijapur and the Saint Philomena Church in Mysore. Again, I'll just pause for 5 seconds here. So please go over this complete list that we have here. Alright, children. Let's look at the pictures of some of these places of pilgrimage. So this is a picture of the Sringeri temple. We then have the one from Shravan Belagola, and this is a single large monolithic statue of Gomateshwara Bahubali. Notice the people that are standing at the bottom of the statue, so you will get a relative idea of how big this particular statue is. And by monolithic, we mean that this has been built from a single stone. We then have the Ibrahim Rosa in Vijaypura or Bijapur, and notice the Mughal architecture there. Finally, we have the Saint Philomena Church in Mysore. Next, and these are the forts of Karnataka. So given that there were a lot of rulers in Karnataka, they obviously had their own kingdoms, and wherever you have kingdoms, you tend to have a lot of forts as well, right? So here are listed here are some of the places where you have forts in Karnataka. Some of these places, again, if you recollect, we've already seen or talked about. So the Vijaypura or Bijapur, the Hampi one, we have seen the Nandi Hills one previously. We've talked of Srirangapatna. And what's also interesting is if you see towards the end, there are the coastal forts. What do you mean by coastal forts? So these are forts that are located close by to the ocean or the shore. So we do have few coastal forts as well in Karnataka. I'll pause for 5 seconds here for you to go over this complete list. Let's see some of the pictures of some of the forts that we just talked about. So this is the one that you see in Bidar. So you can see that this is again an ancient fort, and this is one of the entrance to that particular fort. This is the one in Chitradurga. You can see that this unfortunately hasn't been preserved that much, but we still have a bit of the structure there for us to recognize what it is. This is the fort in Bellary, and this is on a single hilltop, and you can see the fort walls there clearly. This one is the one in Manjarabad. Okay, so now, having seen all the historical places and wildlife and so on, when we are talking of tourism, it won't be complete if you also talk of the cities that draw a lot of tourists as well. So the two main cities that attract a lot of tourists in Karnataka are Bengaluru and Mysuru. So Bengaluru or Bangalore is obviously the capital city of Karnataka. And the reason why it's popular is it has a pleasant climate. So irrespective of the month of the year, the climate is not too hot, not too cold. So it has a very pleasant climate. The wonderful buildings like the Vidhan Sauda there. So people go there for looking at these structures. We have beautiful gardens like the Lal Bagh and Kaban Park, and that's the reason why Bangalore is also known as the Garden City. And Bangalore is also the Karnataka's largest city and one of the mega cities of the country. Mysore is known as the city of palaces, and millions of people visit Mysore during the Dasara festival, where even to this day a lot of traditional customs are followed and it's celebrated in the traditional way. Some of the other places located in and around Mysore are the Chamundu Hills, KR Sagar Dam and Brindavan. Let's look at some of the pictures of these cities. So this one here is the Vidhan Sauda in Bangalore. This one is the one taken in Kaban Park, Bangalore. This is the Mysore Palace when it's all decorated and illuminated in the night. And these are the famous Brindavan Gardens musical fountains. Let's quickly look at what are the topics that we covered today. So as a summary, we have looked at the wildlife sanctuaries, the national parks, beaches and islands in Karnataka, some of the historical places. We also looked at the places of pilgrimage. We had covered some of the forts, and finally we've looked at the cities Bangalore and Mysore. This is the end of the video on the chapter Major Tourist Centers of Karnataka. Hope you enjoyed it.